Outside our walls, we go and reach out to users and potential users in hard-to-reach areas. We'd go over and beyond by traveling to the suburbs to spread knowledge.
Hello. Sorry, I forgot my. A little bit nervous. Yeah. Right. Hey. So, you know that for millions of years, Penang and Kuching are actually connected by land. So theoretically, one could actually walk from Penang to Kuching. I don't know how many days it will take, but we can make it on foot. So at that time, there was no South China Sea. Most of the seawater was stored as massive ice sheets in the northern and southern hemisphere. So the shelf was exposed, and Peninsular Malaysia and Borneo, together with Sumatra, Java, and Bali, were connected and formed a subcontinent called the Sundaland. But until 12,000 years ago, the massive ice sheets melted. Then you have South China Sea, and Borneo became an island on its own. And then it became the world's third largest island since then. Oh, sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gordon Sheng. You can call me Chen Sheng. I'm originally from Penang, but I did not walk from Penang to Kuching. I also did not swim. I would love to try it out. Firstly, I couldn't make it. I had to fly from KL yesterday about 1 hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, so I'm very grateful for being given the opportunity to be here by Tuan Haji Jafri, the CEO of Pustaka, to share with you some of my experience and observations of my work in Borneo in the past 14 years or 15 years. So you must be wondering, what is this guy from Penang doing here in like for us in Lanjong or Naya? What this guy has to do with Borneo? To be honest with you, I ask myself a lot, many times, this question, like, well, what am I doing here? When I say here, it's in Borneo. So it all started about 13 years ago. Before 2010, I had never visited Borneo. This was my first time, my first encounter with Borneo in Sabah. I was the poor master student USM at that time, so that time AirAsia launched its low-cost airfare campaigns. So for us, it's just like, we just try our luck, see whichever tickets we get. So we just fly. Everyone can fly. Right? So we got tickets to Sarawak. So Sabah, we never been to Sabah. Let's just go, So that was my first trip. We went to Sarawak and then Sampurna. So you can see it here. It is an eye-opener for me. A city boy from Penang, small island, coming to the world's the largest island. And of course, different parts of Borneo are very different. So we were in Sampurna. So it felt like a completely different world for me. Right? So we saw the sea baja people, like these seaweed farmers. We also saw the stateless people, traders from the Philippines, migrants from Sulawesi. So that was my first encounter. And of course, the place is super beautiful. The crystal clear water, very nice, the marine ski and things like that. So I thought, yeah, I may want to come back a few more times as a tourist, or maybe just between friends. And my impression about Borneo. Who knows, 3 years later, I started my PhD in the Netherlands. Yeah, and then at that time, we got a project called a large-scale investment in food, fiber, and energy. It was a project commissioned by the UK government. So during that time, we had a couple of case studies in Brazil, in Mozambique, Kenya, and Indonesia. So my professor asked me, CS, which place do you want to go? He let me choose. I don't speak Portuguese. If I go to Brazil, it'd be a problem. If I go to Mozambique or Kenya, maybe French, but I don't speak French, so maybe I should go to Indonesia because I speak Bahasa. But at that time, I didn't know, their Bahasa is quite different from ours, so I thought maybe I should just choose Indonesia. So I went there alone. And I chose Kalimantan as my case study. Because at that time, Kalimantan had experienced a rapid land use change and also had a lot of things going on there, like, oil palm expansion, and we also see the problem with pit fires and transport delays and things like that. So I spent a lot of time in central Kalimantan, but it was quite challenging because I went there alone. We have some grounds and I have to start everything from scratch. We do some networking. I have to do some cold calls to organizations, local organizations, and make friends and recruit my own team. So I recruited two young people as my team member and also an older guy, a local Dayak guy, Dayak Maju, as my team member as well. So we travel around central Kalimantan and do field studies, interviews, and stuff like that. Well, thinking back, it was like, I'm doing this because whenever I tell people about this, they're like, what are you doing in Kalimantan alone? It's like, this guy from Penang go all the way to central Kalimantan and do all this. Yeah, so that was during my PhD in the Netherlands. This was my one of my main projects, my PhD. So you can see here is I like this picture a lot. This was taken somewhere near to Palangka. There's a small village there. I use this as a picture of the back of my book. Yeah, these are some people I met. Dr. Palada, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, in one of the village. This is me. The lady on the right was my team member. And these are the villagers. This is the house owner. So this is the first time I drank coffee with coffee grounds. I don't know, it's their habit, So this man is very generous. He invited me to his house and he prepared coffee for me. He planted some coffee at the back of his house and he cooked the coffee beans and then he made coffee for us. But then they brew coffee with grounds. So I have to do it as well because as a guest, I just do it, but it's a bit weird. That was my very first time to drink coffee with ground. Yeah, so these are more pictures. And we did all our field studies there. Very nice people. Yeah, children. I think this girl probably is 13 or 14-year-old right now. Yeah, we also have the opportunity to stay on plantations for weeks to live together with the workers in Central Kalimantan. It was very, very challenging. Completely different work again, on plantation. And this woman is much stronger than me. When you see the work she did, yeah, we try to follow their ways of doing things, their ways of life. And it was really hard. And we only stayed for, I think, 2 weeks. But that was quite memorable. So this is a boat called Kroto. We traveled a lot on rivers. As you know, in Borneo, rivers are the main ways of transportation. And this river is River Mentaya with a lot of crocodiles. Yeah, I survived anyway. So I thought this is it, maybe the next station, my professor will ask me to go to Brazil or Africa. So I thought, okay, maybe I will go to somewhere else. But then I got a job back in Malaysia. I returned to Malaysia in 2016 after I finished my PhD thesis, and I got a job at the Prime Minister Department. And they sent me to Sarawak. Okay, so I was back to Borneo again, but this time in another place in Sarawak. I got the chance to work with the then Chief Minister's administration, Adam's administration, SDU. So my role was to bring investors from countries like Europe and America and Australia to Sarawak to explore opportunities to invest in bio-based industries. So I was slightly more than a year in this role. So I traveled a lot to Sarawak and worked with the state government at that time. So it gave me an opportunity to understand how things work in Sarawak. Right. I moved on to another job. I started a job as a researcher at the United Nations University based in Tokyo at that time. So we lived there for 2 years. So at that time, I got some grants from the Japanese government through my research. So I traveled a lot in rural Japan, I just like traveling. So I'm a few guy. I cannot just stay in my office. So I travel a lot to meet people in the villages in Japan. And then one day, a friend at Australian National University, that reporter, she called and she asked me, Shane, would you like to go with me for another field study in Borneo? I said, yes. Why not? Which place? So she said, West Kalimantan. Okay, another piece of my Borneo puzzle. So I went again in 2018 to West Kalimantan. Very interesting place with strong Dayak features, right? More than 40% of the population are Dayak people, Dayak Iban. And yeah, we met a lot of these small farmers there, independent farmers, farmers. And of course, interesting people like with traditional costumes. Yeah. So they have their own grassroots initiative to help each other, which you don't really see in other places in Borneo. When I say you don't see, it's like they have organizations like credit unions, they call it Dayak banks or something like that, which have their own people, right? Yeah, so this is a village in West Kalimantan. Right. So after all this these trips, and I thought maybe I should just spend some time to put all my observations, my findings, and the knowledge I gained from people I talked to, and the books I read and papers I read. Maybe I should put everything down and write a book, some kind of interesting project. So I applied for a fellowship at Harvard University. And I was very lucky. They gave me a fellowship to stay there for almost a year to really focus on writing my book. Now, it was a long journey because 1 year obviously is not enough. I spent 3 years to finish the whole book. Yeah. So after 1 year, almost 10 months at Harvard, I returned to Malaysia to work as a researcher at Sarawak University. While writing my book, I also do a lot of teaching and I manage a master's program. So eventually I managed to finish my book last year and it was published in March this year. And at the same time, I also I have a column, a bi-weekly column in Borneo Post. By the way, if anyone have read my column before, you know what? So that. Yeah. Anyway, I do have I also write occasionally for other media like Mogabe in China and Chinese newspapers as well. Yeah. Okay, I just want to show you my book here. This is my book. This is the book fair, so I have to promote my book a little bit more. Right. Okay. Yeah, so I thought I should, seriously consider focusing on Borneo for the rest of my life. I don't know. I thought I didn't choose Borneo, but somehow Borneo is calling me. I don't know, this guy from Penang. And last year, my friends in Sarawak, they wanted to do a study together with us. It's a border study. Yeah. Of course. But I love this. So I joined the team and we did a lot of new studies in the border region of Sabah. We went to places like Sabate and also North Kalimantan. We traveled a lot in North Kalimantan. And this is me with my friend, Pustaka, Indonesia and Malaysia. Yeah. So we spent a lot, the last 10 months, I spent a lot of time at, around that border region and in North Kalimantan as well. Boats and cars. Very interesting. All right. So, after all these years, I think these few years are very important years for Borneo. Previously, Borneo was considered a marginal region for many people compared to places like Java and Peninsular Malaysia, it's a marginal territory somewhere in the middle of Southeast Asia. It's far from the center of it's far from the economic centers and so on. But in recent years, I think things have changed a lot, and it has put Borneo under the spotlight and has attracted a lot of attention from people, not only within Malaysia and Indonesia, but also across the world. So on the Indonesian side, what happened? You have this Nusantara project, right? They want to relocate their capital from Jakarta to East Kalimantan. And it's not only about one city. They also have several mega projects going on, proposed or planned or already implemented in North Kalimantan, right? The mega hydropower projects. There will be 2 mega hydropower projects and one green industrial park. Right, and also they try to revive the mega rice project in Central Kalimantan as well. And on the Malaysian side, I think I don't have to explain that much. Competitively, there's a politician at the federal level, and Sabah have gained much leverage from there. It's best window to gain claim your rights, and we even see the first deputy prime minister from Borneo, especially Sarawak. So this is what happened on the Malaysian side. In addition, we also see a lot of people rushing for looking for carbon offsetting projects. And they see Borneo as one of the potential sites because we have a lot of forests and also carbon stored in the soil. So I think you must have heard about all this carbon thing. A lot of proposals, how to make money out of carbon and stuff like that. Yeah. So all these have made Borneo become the hotspot, especially in the past few years. You have never seen that before, right? But even before this, the Borneo is also already a very interesting place to study because of 2 reasons. Let me break it down for you. So in the past 2 decades, we have seen not 2 but 5 decades. Sorry, yeah. We have seen massive land cover change in Borneo. This is mind-blowing. You can see these 2 maps on the right-hand side. It takes the land cover in 1973, and this is 2023. So you see the green areas are forests. What happened here, especially in East Kalimantan, I'm not sure about my pointer for this too small. This area and this area. You see a reduction in this green area, and either it's forested, the light brown, forested land, and the yellow patches are oil palm plantation. And these are peat forests, the blue-gray areas. So it's quite a visual, right? It's very obvious what happened in Borneo in the past 50 years. And this is something that has a lot of impacts, not only to the local communities, people here in Borneo, but also to global climate change services. This has made Borneo a very important site to study. If you try to quantify the area, you can see the loss of forest is almost like 15 million hectares, something around there. And more than half were deforested but not used for any agricultural activities, and about half was converted to oil palm. Yeah. Another aspect that made Borneo so interesting, it is not a country. Borneo is divided among 3 countries. We have the monarchy of Brunei, Federation of Malaysia, and Republic of Indonesia. Well, by listening to their names, you already know that these 3 countries have very different political systems, governing structure, right? So monarchy is a federation and it's a republic. In Malaysia, you have Sabah and Sarawak. Both territories are quite different. But in Indonesia, all these 5 provinces are placed directly under the president in Jakarta. So the ways of doing things are very different, and you have different economic structure, and all these also have impacts on the social and cultural aspects, right? At first glance, like we think Borneo as a whole, we see a social, cultural, and agricultural continuity, right? But when it comes to the governments, they are divided into 3 countries. So it will be very interesting to see how these different systems affect the things happen on the island. And why things happen in Sarawak not happen in Central Kalimantan, although they share a lot of similarities in terms of climate, culture, and biodiversity and things like that. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of borders, so if you look at the map here, actually we do have a natural boundary. It's the rock mountains in the middle of the island, a dark gray area here. So it forms a natural border between Malaysia and Indonesia. But at some point, the borders were drawn usually by the colonies. Let's give an example. I think it's quite interesting. Like before 1892, I couldn't remember exactly. In this map, you can see the Sabah Island in East Nukan here were considered part of the North Borneo Company. But later, after negotiation between the British and the Dutch, they just draw a straight line there on Sabah Island. A straight line that divides one island. Imagine that kind of border. So there's a lot of these legacy issues from colonialism in the past. That makes also an interesting case to look at. Right. So I would like to give an overview of territories in Borneo. I think I don't have to talk about Sabah and Sarawak. You probably know better than me of Sarawak. I would like to briefly go through the provinces in Indonesia. So you see, in Malaysia, we have unique names like Sabah and Sarawak, but in Indonesia, they just name it like West, Central, South, and East. I think this is just the way how they name their provinces. I was wondering what names they will give to these specific provinces if they don't do it this way. Like why you just put West and East? Maybe can you come up with better names? It's just my personal opinion. So if we start from West Kalimantan, sorry. Yeah, probably this is the province that you're most familiar with. Anyone of you been to West Kalimantan? I saw someone nodding their head. Pontianak or Singkawang, right? So probably you know more about this province than others, right? So as I said, It's a province which is strong with Dayak culture. It's also the most popular province with a relatively large number of Dayak oil palm small holders. These are the people like them. Sangkal. I also took a picture in front of this nice building. It's a spelling. I think there's another one, Kumang, spelling Kumang. Yeah, in Sangkal. Right. I'm not an anthropologist, but I learned that probably the Naya Iban there shares the same root as the Orang Iban in Sarawak as well, especially to Lugoan community. So the next province will follow from left to right, Central Kalimantan. Okay, let me ask again. Anyone been to Central Kalimantan? You've been to? Okay. Want to join me on the stage? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's very rare to see people from Malaysia actually visit Central Kalimantan. So it is a very, very important place to study, in my opinion. Yeah. You know, it actually shares a lot of similarities with Sarawak in terms of the population. It has 3 million people, and then it has a lot of peatlands and land area also almost similar. I think it's slightly larger than Sarawak. 15 million hectares, and Sarawak has 12.5 million. And also with a large percentage of Dayak people. They are Dayak Laju there. The province has experienced, how to say, troubled past. Yeah, so they have this mega rice project, which is kind of a huge environmental disaster, accompanied with the transmigration project during the Suharto's era, which caused a lot of social conflicts and also a human disaster and land grabbing and conflicts. Yeah, so when I was there, talked to some of these transmigrants. You know, the mega rice project is a big failure. It failed completely. And you know, you have pit fires, you have transboundary haze. What made me feel really sad is like I talked to and she shared with me during the worst time, they have nothing to eat. You know, all their farms are destroyed, they cannot grow anything. So what they do, they eat rats. Yeah, because it's so bad situation back then. Yeah, rats everywhere. The rats are human. So that was the time, the worst time of Central Kalimantan. I'm not sure about you. Have you experienced serious haze events in Sarawak or in Kuching before? When I was young in Penang, 1998, 97, it was really bad. You know, even before COVID, we already had wearing masks every day. I think for slightly more than a month, when I was in my primary school, we had to wear masks to school every day because of as well the haze. The haze, the very heavy haze blanket coming from Sumatra. So yeah, it was really bad. That was the first time I heard about land fire, but actually it's a pit fire. Right. So we go to yeah, these are the pictures sent from my friends. A friend of mine in Central Kalimantan called Agustinus. This is in 2015. I was lucky I was there in 2014. So I didn't experience this haze event. In Palangkaraya in Central Kalimantan. As you can see, the colors of the sky and it's so yellowish. Actually, I didn't know how it's like. It's really bad. It was really bad. So I thought, why don't you just go other places and say the whole province was like that. There was no place to go. It's really terrible. I think it lasted for weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. This is in October 2015. It was the worst in the past 10 years. Right. So further to the south is South Kalimantan. I haven't been to this province, but I wanted to go. So maybe I'll plan another trip there someday soon. Yeah. So this province is very different from others because it has very strong cultural identity of Banjaris. The Banja place. Yeah. Banjarmasin has been a hub of trade and also political center in the southern region of Borneo, just like Brunei in the north, right? And you have this Banjarmasin in the south for centuries. Yeah. For now, South Kalimantan has emerged as a major coal-producing site for Indonesia. And same as East Kalimantan is also a major coal producing province. I think East Kalimantan is a place where attracted a lot of attention in the past probably 2-3 years because of the Nusantara project. Everyone is talking about the capital relocation will be somewhere around here, forming a tri-city ecosystem with Samarinda and Balikpapan. So this province relies heavily on oil and gas, especially Balikpapan is an oil city, and also coal production exported through Samarinda and Balikpapan as well. Yeah. Balikpapan, I've never been there. Actually, I got the opportunity to visit Samarinda in September because I will be starting a new job, so I have to decline that. Yeah, I haven't been to East Kalimantan before, so I should do it soon. Yeah. Balikpapan was voted as one of the most livable cities in Indonesia on many occasions. Thanks to the infrastructure development because of the oil money generated in the past decades. So I want to share with you a fun fact. Do you know that 1/3 of Malaysian electricity generated from how should I frame this? Okay. Do you know that 1/3 of our electricity comes from Kalimantan? 1/3, about 50%. This is my estimation. I don't think many people actually know about this. If you look at this graph, electricity generation by source for Malaysia, the use of coal to generate electricity has gone up substantially in the past 10 years, since the year 2000, or especially after 1998, the financial crisis, right? So the use of coal in our electricity mix has gone up to almost 45% at the end of the decade, 2020. Where did we get our coal? Malaysia doesn't produce that much coal. So we get our coal from Indonesia, obviously. And where from Indonesia? From Kalimantan. Because 90% of Indonesian coal came from East and South Kalimantan. So about 1/3 of our electricity generated from coal from East and South Kalimantan. I don't think many people know about this because I asked around. Yesterday, I also shared this with another group of audience. Yeah. I also didn't know about this until recently. Yeah. Okay. Right. So the last province is North Kalimantan. It is the youngest province in Indonesia, so it was just formed in the year 2012. The province was formed from 5 districts of East Kalimantan. And it was created to leverage its proximity to Malaysia. So it shares a very lengthy border with Sabah and Sarawak, right? And you especially see lots of cross-border trade and also migration and people moving cross-border in places like Tawau and Nunukan, and also in Sarawak through Bakalan. Right, so the Lundaya communities, Lundaya and Lundbang communities on the island. And the 3 point there, the borders between Sabah, Sarawak, and North Kalimantan. Long Bawah and Long Pasir and Bakalan. So this is because President Jokowi has a policy for developing Indonesia from periphery. So the idea is to shift the focus from developing the country only from the core, that is Java, to the marginal territory along the border, especially borders with Malaysia, but also some small islands scattered across the border region with other countries. So a lot of resources were invested to develop infrastructure in the border area. So when I was in North Parliament, I was actually quite surprised. Some of the areas were just like, not so much population, but they actually built roads. So for this, obviously, the political consideration outweigh the economic consideration. So sometimes you see that kind of infrastructure development does not make economic sense, but they have to do it because of political reasons. Yeah. And also, these projects has been a large there are several mega projects proposed for these province as well. Like I said just now, mega hydropower projects and also the green industrial park. Yeah. So this is an overview of population. How about the people living in Borneo? West Kalimantan is the most populous, the most people, more than 5 million people. Followed by South Kalimantan it has a small land area, but it has more than 4 million people. Then Sabah, East Kalimantan, and then Sarawak, Central Kalimantan, so on and so forth. And if you look carefully, the increase in the population, you see the largest increase in Sabah, more than 1 million people, and also in South Kalimantan as well. The growth of population is probably the highest, but also East Kalimantan. Yeah, not so much in Brunei and Central Kalimantan. But overall, the population is increasing in that entire island in the past 10 years, 2000 to 2020. Yeah, I want to do a quiz review. This graph represents the GDP per capita for year 2000, 2010, and the year 2020. Which one is Sarawak? Can you guess? GDP per capita. Just guess. Anyone? You can do a bold guess. Come on. More? Very confident? Someone help me to look the laptop. So let's see from there. I cannot choose it from here. Yes, number 4 is Sarawak. Yeah. Can you help me to click my laptop? Yeah, over there. Yeah. Just I put some animation. But you're right, number 4 is Sarawak. It's true. Can you just click on number 4? Click on the box. Just have to scroll the mouse over. Click on number 4. You're not sure how to do that. I will do it from there. It's okay. It's fine. Because I have the microphone with me. It's better. Okay, yes. Yeah, number 4 is Sarawak. So Sarawak, you can claim yourself as the richest state in Malaysia with the highest GDP per capita if you want to. Depends on how you frame it. If you look at this one, this is Malaysia. So on average, the GDP per capita of Malaysia is about $10,000. The highest among the territories. This one is Indonesia, Sabah, West Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan, South Kalimantan. This is East Kalimantan, and this is North. Right. Okay, so You can also see that East Kalimantan and North Kalimantan have very high GDP per capita. It's almost matching Sarawak, right? Some point. But if you look closely, we break it down by sector. East Kalimantan relies heavily on mining and quarry, which is oil, gas, and coal. And similarly for North Kalimantan, the province also depends heavily on mining and quarry, which is coal. But because the population in North Kalimantan is so small, so when you divide the GDP into per capita, it looks so high, and like this one. Personally, I've been to North Kalimantan myself. I don't think it's anywhere near Sarawak in terms of infrastructure development. But even though you see the GDP per capita seems close to Sarawak, actually, it cannot explain a lot of things. It is just an indicator. It does not mean that when you have a high GDP per capita, it is as developed as the other territories. Yeah. So, and if you look closely the breakdown, Sarawak has the highest percentage in terms of this distribution coming from manufacturing, the red bars. And another prominent trend is look at Sabah. Services and others has the highest contribution, likely from tourism. Yeah, so they rely heavily on tourism. Right, this is an overview. Volume. Okay. After all this year, I'm very concerned, and I know you are very concerned as well about what Borneo is heading to. You know, after all these years of exploitation of resources to jumpstart the economies throughout the island. Are we going to do this again in the next 10 years, 20 years? Are we going to repeat the same thing? What happened in other places of the world? And we are going to repeat the same history again in Borneo. So I believe that is something to care about, but this is the place you were born and raised, and your children will stay here. So many people have been thinking, so what can we do? What are the strategies we can put in place to, transform or to move the island away from such unsustainable trajectory? So we decided to summarize all these things based on our findings, our readings, our interviews, our field studies, to understand what people have tried to do and what has been done, why people want to do that, and how these are being done, and what are the challenges in the past 20 years across different territories in Borneo. And this is the main content of the book. So basically, the book is like a history book from a land use perspective for Borneo. So we record all these different policies, strategies, and initiatives and programs we carry out in Borneo and their impacts and their outcome. Then we discuss the lessons learned from this in the past 20 years, from the year of 2000 to 2020. Yeah. Right. So the way we see it is that we found that there are two main lines of inquiry. First one, we bring it as bioeconomy. Yeah. So in this framework, productivity is the core. So when we call it a bioeconomy or bio-based economy, we use the most common definition, and it's mainly definited by productivity. That means productivity is always the core. The idea is to use the least resources to produce the most outcome. right? If you improve the efficiency, you improve the yield, you increase food and environment secure production while minimizing environmental impacts. And one important feature is it has to be climate neutral. That you try to avoid adding more emission into the atmosphere. Now, the whole idea is that with technological advancement, we are able to improve our production system by more efficiently using our resources, especially land resources, right? So this is a one line of thoughts that we found. And another is quite different. We call it eco-economy or nature-based economy. But unlike bioeconomy, we don't have a common word used for these types of thinking or strategies. So we thought that maybe we can call this as eco-economy or nature-based economy. So we started with a very conservation-oriented mindset. Yeah. So the idea is we first have to fix our damage. I mean we have to fix the damages done in the past before we talk about increasing our production, right? And we have to consider the Earth's biological capacity when optimizing human use of nature. And that means we have to also consider the different functions of our land. It's not just for production. We also have other purposes. So when we use our resources, we have to consider all these different factors. And to put it in a simple way, this kind of ideas usually they envision a self-sufficient landscape with small-scale farming system and alternative income generation programs. So how do we actually improve the entire landscape, like focus on the well-being of people, livelihood, and things like that, instead of going towards the very large-scale projects, focus on productivity and profits and so on. Yeah. So in this book, we try to compare the different strategies used by these let's say, two groups of people. Yeah. And how do they complement each other or compete with each other? I'm not going into the details, but I would like to go through with you the structure of the book. And if you're interested, yeah, you can buy my book. But okay, that's fine. I mean, it's not a book sales. So. Right. So we identify 10 strategies, and then we put this under the two frameworks. Yeah. So this is the summary. Let's go through one by one. So for the productivities, the very first strategy, I think is quite obvious. Boosting upstream productivity of cash crops. It's the yield of the crop. And I think we all know that I mean, it's a simple logic, right? If you can produce more from the same area of land, then maybe you don't need to expand further. And this is a very simple thinking. Let's say you can produce a 10 unit from one land, then you don't have to use 2 units of land to produce 10 units of products, right? So that's the logic behind this strategy. So a lot of investment has been made to improve the yield, especially cash crop yield in oil. Basically, that means oil palm, right? So people were thinking like, if we can improve the use of the yield of palm oil, then we don't have to use so much land. We can protect our forests. Then we just produce from the existing plantation. That's an ideal way of thinking. But before we go into that, I would like to do another quiz with you. So here are the Northern territories and also Peninsula Malaysia and Sumatra. Which territory you think see the most increased yield? Which territory has the best improvement in terms of yield of palm oil? And guess? See Sarawak again. And I guess which territory you see the most improvement in terms of yield of palm oil? Any guess? West Kalimantan. Central. Yeah. Okay, let me show you. None of them. The yield actually did not increase in the past 10 years. Sometimes you see decline. So what happened? I mean, we have put in so much investment and trying to push for increase in yield, but when it comes to the actual result, none of the territories show any significant increase in terms of yield, especially a decline in the year of 2016. You remember the long drought in 2015 just now? The fire, the haze picture that I showed you in Palangkaraya, the yellowish air. Yeah, that is the reason why you see a decline here in 2016 because of the long drought caused by El Nino. So basically, we can break it down into two types of factors. One is biological constraints. Not every piece of land can produce so much. It depends on the water resources. Water is a main constraint. And then for palm oil especially, if you don't have enough water, it's really the yield will drop, you don't produce so much oil. And also soil, right? Not all soil is suitable for production. Like this picture from NASA is during 2015, the long droughts. We have fire all over the province. What do you expect? High production, high productivity? No, right? It must be climate into considerations, especially droughts. Another group of factors is socioeconomic constraints. But imagine if you're a small farmer, anyone here do some farming, but you have your own farms. It's all about profit, right? If you want to increase the yield, you have to invest fertilizers, better seedlings. You also have to hire more people to run the farms because you cannot possibly do it by yourself. If you want to intensively use your farm, use your land. So that basically means that you will have to take more risks. And as a small farmer or a small holding, it's a difficult decision. You don't simply go into an area that you're not familiar with. And remember that in Borneo, smallholders are a major group of farmers. So we cannot have a simple idea that, oh, as long as we improve the productivity, then we can produce more from less land. Because it depends on so many other factors like labor shortage, risk, financial risk, as I mentioned, things like that, economic consideration. And also probably the farmers just don't want to do it. They just don't like it. It's a social function then. I would like to be a small farmer doing something small and I don't feel like I want to go big, you know. So these are the constraints that we have to put in mind when we read the graph. Why is the yield not increasing? Yeah. This is an interesting article I read last year from National Geographic. It said that fruits and vegetables are less nutritious than they used to be. The logic is that if we produce more from the same piece of land, although it's more fruits and vegetables, but the nutrients were also shared across this produce. That means each of the fruit and vegetable we eat has less nutrients, right? Because nutrients are finite, so we don't really have that much nutrient to share with all these produce. So this is a very interesting article I read last year as well. That's point of knowledge. Yeah. So from another group of people, conservationists, the idea is different. What they have in mind is instead of talking about improving productivity, they should worry about declining productivity because of environmental damage and also global climate change. Right? I think that kind of reason is quite valid because we don't want to neglect all these potential risks in the future. So what they advocate is to be consider resilience, especially at the landscape level. Like if you look at this landscape, I think this is Central Kalimantan. We have forests, we have grassland, we have white palm plantation, we have small white palm farmers. So when it comes to productivity, it cannot be just one plantation or one farm. You have to consider the entire landscape, water resources, biodiversity, the physical resources like the forests. All these have to be taken into consideration. So they propose the landscape approach to manage the land instead of focusing on just one farm or one plantation. That means people have to work together. We have to all work together to come up with a plan to ensure landscape. When I say landscape, it means like a large area of land is not just lands, plots. So you see, most of the lands in Borneo are small set and not very stakeholders. It's very challenging to do that because people have different ideas and perspective. So they try to do that through the landscape approach, but when you start with having a platform, people together, talk together, it's already a challenge. But this is the way of thinking from another group of people. Now, back to the productivity group that I have thought. Another strategy proposed is activating realized resources. So this one has been discussed widely. Like the picture here shows shrubland and grassland in central Kalimantan. This picture was taken by me. So when you look at this picture, you're like, okay, this land will not be properly utilized. Why don't we use this land instead of going to convert the forest? Instead of converting the forest, we might just as well using this underutilized land or empty land to produce more. And this sounds like a good idea, I mean, because, and if you look at the numbers, in fact, Borneo does have a lot of underutilized land across different territories, especially West Kalimantan and North grassland, and Central Kalimantan as well. We forested land that were not used. So the idea was to use this land, low carbon land, instead of forests for agricultural expansion. That is the idea. How do we actually use this land? Because there are many constraints, like just like biological constraints. We just talk about the water and soil. Not all lands are suitable for agricultural production. Some lands are degraded land. So there were proposals of using this degraded land for biofuel production because some crops may grow on degraded land. But I'm not sure if you heard about Chatrofa. So Chatrofa relies heavily on water for the yield. So even they can grow, they don't necessarily produce that much oil as expected on degraded land. So this is one consideration of biophysical constraints. And also access. Are we going to build a lot of roads into these areas? Right? Farmers cannot access this land because there are no roads. And usually these are like, very with a very low population density. And you have labor shortage. What else work there? If you want to go to somewhere like the middle of nowhere, grassland, you start a farm, probably you can't find people to do it unless you have a large scale migration program, which is something very risky from a social perspective and a political perspective as well. And you have this land right issue, and actually most of these land were abandoned for some reasons. Yeah, I heard a very interesting story when I was in Sarawak, Central Kalimantan. So we went to a place, like underutilized land. There were no people there, and I asked around, no people live there. Nobody wants to go there. I said, why don't you consider using this piece of land for maybe farming or something? And they told me that place is haunted. When you go there, it's very dangerous. I said, why? I said, many things happen. So just one story. Very interesting. I went there alone, not alone, but with my team. Luckily, nothing happened. Right, and the other group, okay, then instead of using this land for agricultural production, there's another thinking. Why don't we restore this land? Right? But how do we encourage people to do restoration? We get the money, so we have to protect or restore the land. Right? It sounds like an interesting idea, right? Qualifying the ecosystem services. And one of the easiest, not easiest, but one of the most direct ways of doing this is carbon. Because carbon is the most measurable. We can measure the carbon more easily compared to biodiversity. and it's also a direct indicator for climate change. So the idea is that, okay, you store some carbon, then I'm going to pay you for that, right? And then eventually evolve into a different schemes. I'm explaining it in a very simple ways because the real things are more complicated. So I believe you must have heard about carbon markets, which is a buzzword recently, Sarawak as well. Just to give you a brief overview, because otherwise it's difficult to explain how things work or this strategy. So basically, there are two types of markets. One is compliance market set up by jurisdictions to fulfill their nationally determined contributions for emission reduction. So basically, jurisdictions are countries or state like California. They set up a platform, a compliance market for companies to trade carbon credits to offset their emission. Previously, forest carbon credits were not considered in this kind of market, but until Article 6 of the Paris Agreement released in 2021. So now they can already include the forest carbon credits already in their in the market. Then the third market is called voluntary market. And this market operates outside of compliance market and has experienced significant growth in the recent years. This market is voluntary. This means that you are not, it's not for compliance. It's for companies to purchase their carbon credits on a voluntary basis. And in this market, forest carbon project as nature-based climate solutions are in high demand. So why companies want to buy carbon credits? Why are they so eager to do that? Why people are coming all the way to Borneo to us if we can set up carbon programs for them to have their carbon offsetting? The reason is because they rely on the financial institutions, and there is a high demand from the financial institutions like banks and funds require them to show their efforts in emission reduction. That's why they have to do it. They have to somehow demonstrate that they cut their emissions. But in fact, only 6% of companies around the world try to cut their emissions. The emissions from their operations. The other 94%, they are looking for carbon offsetting. Basically, it means that, can you help me to store some carbon in the forest? I pay you for that. So I can claim that I offset my emission from my operation. You see that? It is a very simple way of describing it. This is how things being considered. So we have our very first voluntary market exchange, the first carbon exchange, just launched earlier this year. So before this, in the late 2000 and early 2010s, there was several projects set up in Kalimantan, like this ID Plus and carbon design. But most of them were not very successful. Actually, Kalimantan Forest and KFCT is the most established one, funded by Australia, but it was withdrawn in 2013. And then there are many reasons. One is because they are privately bank on carbon credit market at that time. And then also it's very difficult to coordinate among different agencies in Indonesia. So it has got a lot of problems. Eventually, the project was withdrawn. The most successful one is the Rimba Raya Biodiversity Reserve Project. This project tapped on the voluntary market and got funding from private sector. Right. I'm not sure if you heard about Sabah's NCA. It is probably one of the most recent case about it. It's called Nature Conservation Agreement. So there's a deal signed with a foreign private firm to monetize carbon and other natural capital in the next by these next years. In 2021. Yeah. So the idea is that it aims to earn revenue from sale of the carbon credits generated from protecting and restoring the tropical forests across the state. Like 2 million hectares is quite a huge area, right? And what has attracted people attention is the estimated monetary value. It was estimated to generate $80 billion, this huge amount of money. Extraordinarily high estimated income. So the project has the agreement has received having decision because of this let's say unrealistic estimation. I'll explain later why. But eventually in February 2022, the State Attorney General accepted in the press release that the NCA was non-binding framework agreement and its present form is legally important. So they were out. What are the problems? Well, first of all, is transparency. You know, for project as big as this, you need transparency because it's of public interest. They involve communities, they involve many stakeholders. So basically, the agreement is not transparent. So people don't know what's going on, and this creates a lot of anxiety among the people. And the second thing is additionality. I think this is the most important thing that people often overlook. Okay, let's say you have 2 million hectares of forest. But you cannot just say, I want to claim credits for all the carbon absorbed by this 2 million hectares of forest. It does not work in this way. It's about the additional carbon captured through your program. Yeah, it's a very simple way of, a very simple metaphor. Let's say you have a company making 100,000 ringgit every year without you or your program or anything. The company has been running for 10, 20 years, making 100,000 ringgit every year. And then you join the company is still making 100,000 ringgit every year. Can you claim bonus? There is nothing additional you get for the company from a very basic sense of from the profit, right? So it's the same for the carbon credit program projects. If you want to claim credit, you have to show that you have captured additional carbon through your projects, like restoration or things like that. So by demonstrating this, only you can claim credits. Otherwise, how the company offset their carbon emission? You have to capture additional carbon so that the company can claim to offset its emission. So that's the whole idea. And then the third question is equity. So who is going to benefit from the sales of carbon? Who own these forests? Who own this carbon? Right? Things like that has become a main issue, especially in central Kalimantan when you involve communities a lot. How are you going to use the money? Is the money going to be distributed among the people, including the local communities? Or the money goes to the state and the state spends on some infrastructure program? Or the money goes into some unknown companies offshore? So these are the things that cause a lot of problems. And number four is sovereignty. This is a more complicated issue. So if you sell your credit to some private companies, how about the national determined contribution? Can Malaysia still claim the reduction, or it has to be removed from our national account because you already sold it to someone else, right? And eventually the complementarity. Conservation is not only about carbon, it's also about other ecosystem services like biodiversity and water and so on and so forth. So if you focus too much on carbon, we only look for carbon, and we say, okay, let's plant this tree because it captures the most carbon. But then we may overlook the impacts on, for example, biodiversity and water and things like that. So how do we complement carbon projects with other conservation projects would be something we need to carefully consider. Now, how much time do I have? Okay, we still have half an hour. Right. Okay, coming back to the productivities mindset again. Yeah. Okay, so we talked a lot about upstream. Now, what about downstream? Right. If we cannot further expand our upstream, we have to look at our downstream. Like, we don't want to be forever place that only produce raw materials for others. You want to develop your own downstream, you want to move up the value chain and develop your own industry, right? That's the idea. Can we transform the whole industry from only upstream to also downstream to produce high value products, high added value, and also vertical integration and things like that. So this is the whole idea of upgrading and diversifying downstream. So I mean, we look around the world, many developed countries have experienced that, transform from a raw material primary producer to industrialized country. So, and will we also do that? There are many things we can do. Sorry about this chart is taken from a paper, but the font is very small. So there are many options we can produce. But the whole idea is, can we create advanced biorefinery kind of things and produce advanced bioproducts like pharmaceutical or more basic stuff like biofuels and biogas. And recently we talked about sustainable aviation fuels from algae, so things like that. Yeah, there are many pathways to consider. Yeah, but it remains a very challenging pathway because you need infrastructure, you need investment, and you need talent. It's like a chicken and egg issue. Yeah, you need to have this first, and then only investment will come, or we invest first, and things will be better. I just want to share a very interesting story actually. Yeah. So this is what happened in Ghana. You know, Ghana is a chocolate, it's a cocoa exporter. They export this cocoa to Switzerland at a very low price, and then Switzerland made the Swiss chocolate and sell to us at a very high price. Right. So in I don't know, I forgot which year this video was taken. I think it's like 2017 or something. Ghana's president says the country will no longer export cocoa to Switzerland. Yeah. Because they want to produce their own high quality chocolate and sell it in their own brand. Right. So this is one example. Another example is Indonesia, our neighbor. So what President Jokowi has done is that it banned the export of nickel and forced the companies to process the ores in Indonesia, especially the Chinese and the French companies, so that they can develop their downstream activities within the country. I'm banning the export of primary products. Yeah. Instead of going to very industrialized pathway, the conservationist group said, why don't we look into our own advantage, the beautiful nature we have, and we develop ecotourism. Are we destined to industrialize? Are there any other pathways instead of going all the way, to industrialization? Can we do something else like ecotourism? So this is the idea. And in our book, we try to gather some information about what happened in the past 10 years in Borneo. And interestingly, you see Sabah and Sarawak are much more dependent in terms of tourism sector. If we use number of visitors as indicators, you see Sabah has a lot of foreigners visiting the state, much more than Sarawak. In fact, in the year 2018, before the pandemic, yeah, I think the numbers changed a lot after the pandemic started. But this is the picture. It's an overview. So there's a lot of potential in Kalimantan as well. Let's try to do that in some places that have potential, like North Kalimantan or Central Kalimantan. Again, the same problem with infrastructure and investment and things like that. So they are still lagging behind compared to Sabah and Sarawak. Just to share with you this one. Actually, to me, this is I was taking a boat ride in Sungai Kedisiangan in Sabah. Very interesting boat ride. To me, right, simple activity like this is very attractive for people from the cities. I'm willing for a package just to take a photo in the inland of Borneo, and then enjoy the scenery and then be together with the villagers, having fun, having the villagers, having fun, like some storytelling, some simple kind of things are already very attractive. That's in my opinion. This is also my observation. My friends around me in KL and Negeri are willing to do that. But it's not easy to find packages like that. It's not that straightforward. You need to look for it. So I think there are a lot of potential to attract people to places like that. It's just my personal preference. So this is what I said just now. You need investment, infrastructure, talents, and also getting out of comfort zone. These are the things we discuss in the book. Right. Go quicker. Yeah, so then I'll come back to the productivity state. Number four, strategy number four. We're also talking about simplifying cash crop processability. So I believe you've heard about RSPO and stuff like that. Imagine yourself as a consumer in Europe. If you want to buy something with palm oil, would you consider buying something with RSPO logo? Pay a little bit more? I'm not sure if we do that, but I believe many of my friends in Europe, they will do that. They will actually do that. And so it has become something that the producers will have to take into serious consideration how to prove that they are doing things in a sustainable way. People are getting more and more interested in what they consume because the awareness about sustainability has increased in the past few years, not only in Europe, but also in Malaysia. As I can see, at least in Klang Valley, people are increasingly aware and they wanted to do something with their way of consumption. So how do we prove that the things we consume are sustainably produced? Then we only look at the logos, right? The labels that on the product. So this is a tool that people developed to trace the origins of the palm oil consumed. Well, palm oil is just one of them. They also trace soybean and the beef and things like that. So I just want to show you an example how serious people are when it comes to things like this. So inevitably, Borneo will have to catch up to show that you are able to produce things in a sustainable way. But there are many issues with this kind of certification, like what is cost, because you have to pay extra for people to come and audit and give you the certificate, right? And also when it comes to crop focus certification, you only focus on one crop. But I said just now, you need to consider the entire landscape, different types of crops and different land use. If you only have one crop in focus, you indirectly encourage people to only look at one crop rather than a more sustainable way of using your land. Finally, it may not be that effective when you have market leakage, where some countries may not agree with this certification and maybe they just don't care. So there are some market considerations here as well. These are all discussed in the book. Yeah. Now, instead of looking at cash crop, maybe we should also consider again our own advantages, like especially products from small farmers. For example, geography indicators, you have Sarawak pepper, which is quite famous. But there are also a range of products from Borneo, quite exotic, and maybe you can earn the premiums from branding them differently. I think one of our audience been to West Kalimantan, right? Actually, I like the churro a lot, the orange. Yeah, I thought this is something people enjoy, but it was not being promoted to Malaysia yet. We don't see much of that churro pontianak in Malaysia. Something that we could do, just things like that. So in this line of thinking, people are thinking, how can we, I don't know, but yeah, they're also trying to look for alternative income through marketing their products using the word organic. Well, organic is a catchy word, and also combined with tourism and festival and things like that. So we also discuss some of these examples in our book, and yeah. And this is the last strategy that we will discuss in the book, creating domestic demand. I'm not sure if you read this just a few days ago. There's a dramatic fall in palm oil imports in the EU in the 2022 and 23 fiscal marketing year. The main reason cited is because of the decline in the use of palm oil for biofuels in Europe. As you can see, Korea relies heavily on because it's a exporter, right? So you rely a lot on your buyers, and as a commodity producer, inevitably you have this risk of demand fluctuation and price fluctuation, things like that. So one strategy adopted is to create local markets, like create a local biofuel market to consume your own palm oil as a buffer when the market is not good for export. Then probably the country can absorb the excessive stock. Yeah, so this is one strategy adopted. We also discussed the challenges and opportunities of this strategy in the book. This is the final point for in the book, the final chapter, not final chapter, but the last strategy we discussed in the chapter, encouraging traditional land use and food system for self-sufficiency. This is from another group, and more conservation oriented group. What I have thought is that why do you want to talk about additional demand for biofuels? This is the other extreme end. Why don't we talk about how we use our land for self-sufficiency? Like more traditional kind of land use, we also the food systems, we produce our own food, and how to say, revitalize our culture and stuff like that. So this is another line of thought. Instead of going to the productivity kind of mindset. Yeah. Well, the good news is in the last few years, deforestation rate has decreased significantly. So throughout the whole volume, as you can see, I'm sorry, I lost the slide. In 2021, 2021, the rate of deforestation or forest degradation has gone down to almost to only slightly over 100,000 hectares. Compared to 2016, you see how much? 600,000 hectares. So you started in 2001, the rate of deforestation went up, and then it declined in the last 5 years. So there's still hope, right? There's a positive trend. And you don't exploit so much forest. Maybe you don't need it anymore. And we can actually have a growth instead of deforestation, right? Like forest regeneration and forestation. This is the final slide I have. First for development and electricity. So as I said just now, I was in North Kalimantan last month. I traveled a lot throughout the province, and I spoke to so many people. And I see a paradox there. So what happened is, the people usually, on the one hand, they will tell me, We hope to have a more sustainable way of development, We hope to protect our forests, protect our culture, protect our land. We want to make sure we can pass our, the land to our next generation in a good way, when keep our forests, things like that. But on the other hand, they also told me we must have this infrastructure. We want to build more roads. We want more movies coming to our place. We want to develop, we want more schools, we want more hospitals. And then I asked them, what if it will come at a cost? Because infrastructure and all this development seems contradictory to what you want, right? Then they said, if what needed, they are willing to take it. They are willing to embrace development even at a cost. So when I asked them about the Pustaka project, the mega projects like hydropower and wind industrial park, they told me positive about it. They show a positive outlook, and they are very eager to see more infrastructure development in North Kalimantan so that they can improve their life. I try to put myself in their shoes. Many of them are living in quite a difficult situation. They rely so much on the Sarawak and Sabah side for very simple things like clinics and schools. For example, I have heard that pregnant women in some of the interior in North Kalimantan, they actually walk to Sabah to deliver the babies. So things like that happen. And I think when it comes to development, we have to be really honest. Yeah, I think that's the word I would use. We have to be honest to ourselves, and we have to be honest in taking perspective of different people, communities, stakeholders. It cannot be just imagination, but we have to be honest in that case. Right. So thank you very much. That's all for today. So if you have any questions for us, sorry that I'm not in the best condition today because I'm not doing very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now open the floor for Q&A session. So if you would like to ask questions, please come forward and ask your question through the mic that is provided in front of the stage.
We don't have questions. I have questions for you. No, I have a question. I don't have a question. You just need to raise your hand. After listening to this different strategy, which side you think you are more aligned with, the productivities or the conservation? For those who think that we should focus on more productivity, please raise your hand. No. So I assume all of you are on the other side. They tell your accounts not for mutual. I didn't have any overlaps. And also paradox, dilemma within ourselves. The more you look into this kind of things, the more you feel like you don't know what to do, get confused. At some point, it seems like nothing much we can do. But what I always feel that is we can start by stop doing something that we think is completely wrong. So because honestly, these things cannot be done anymore. We have to stop it. Then only we think about what to do next. That's my opinion. Next one, we have a question. Next one, you can.
Henry. Just a comment for me. I was a bit surprised when you mentioned that 1/3 of the electricity in Sarawak are coal-generated. I'm surprised.
In Malaysia.
Malaysia or Sarawak?
In Malaysia.
Okay, if it is Sarawak, I'm surprised because you know why. Let's turn to the Bakun and Batang Air. I think I must be sleeping there. I didn't get it correct. This
In Malaysia.
in Malaysia. Okay. I thought you were referring to Sarawak.
No, Malaysia. This one, right? This one.
I think Sarawak and
I think Pustaka is 30% Macau. Pahang, if I'm not mistaken.
those electricity generated by those hydro Patun and Batang Air is still
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember exactly the figure, but the number back in my head is about 20% of electricity is it's not I cannot say for sure. It's a rough figure I have. It's from coal. The one the power plant in Utah and another power plant in
okay. The
only coal-free state in Malaysia is Sarawak. Sarawak does not have coal power plant. That's the only coal-free state, but they are running into an energy shortage. You see the use of coal has increased substantially in the past 20 years in Malaysia. Any other question?
Maybe Achushan can talk more about the promotion of your book instead. Yeah, since it is a book fair, Pustaka book fair.
Okay, well, I have a few copies with me. Any one of you would like to get a copy? I don't have some brochures on my back. Maybe I can distribute that. Anyway, this is just a documentation of what's happened in the last 20 years. And I think we learned a lot from studying what happened on the winning countries. And I think in the coming years, as I say, will be very exciting years for oil because of these changes. Especially in North America, I would say it's a place that we should pay more attention to. With all these mega projects going on in South has state there, hydroelectricity power plant. Actually, the one is much bigger than one like Power China. It's like that. The target capacity is 9,000 megawatt, which is 400 megawatts of wind. It's quite big, yeah. And this will definitely change the landscape. It will materialize. I don't know whether it will materialize, but even Nusantara is in there because you have a presidential election next year. So we'll see. We can give it answer.
All right, thank you, Junsheng. So please remain on stage. As a small token of our appreciation, I would like to invite our Deputy CEO, Wan Mazli Wan Razali, to come up on stage and present a gift to Dr. Goh Junsheng as a symbol of our gratitude. Thank you, gentlemen. You may now return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give another warm applause to honor Dr. Goh for his exceptional work. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the talk. On behalf of the organizing committee, our esteemed author, and everyone involved, thank you for your time, your presence, and your unwavering support. For those of you who haven't registered as a member of Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, now is the chance to register during the Pustaka Book Fair. When you register during Pustaka Book Fair 2023, you will be gifted with a popular bookstore voucher. So if you haven't, you may want to do so. So take the chance to register at the registration counter on the ground floor. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once more, and we hope to see you again in our future events. Thank you and have a good day.
Pakai cordless. Kau satu lah, kau satu. Kau satu lah. Kau nak pakai cordless. Cordless saja. Kelak pukul 3. Oh, pukul lagi dah. Pandang ready. Pandang ready.
Beli di kapal. Beli di kapal.
Kapal. Oh. Kau satu, cordless sikit. 3, 2 gig. 2 gig meja, 2 gig pusing sikit.
Ismanto, tolong ada request daripada JPN.
JPN. Pahal.
Kita video bulat.
Hah?
Video bulat apa?
Hotel table kan ada sikit ada. Kita tu, ni saya kita. Tanya, ni saya kita.
Kita pukul 1 pula. Kita pakai rostrum sih. Apa kata CNC dah situ pula.
Ya, cara santai aja. Santai.
Macam tadi kalau
Tapi yang musibar hotel table. Hotel table yang musibar. Puasa ada tu.
si kau si pantry lo dah.
Hotel dekat ada. Oh, kita ngelapun. Jadi,
Kita kata jangka.
akhirnya santai.
Ya Allah semeriang enggak, Miss? Oh, semeriang.
Apa ada juri? Kalau pergi, Menopi pergi tak? Menopi Pulau. Oh, Menopi berapa? Kita lupa dari dia kalau pendidikan apa? Tu, pendidikan kita sampai ni nak. Jadi ya, si orang itu. Pendidikan kan lama, lembut benih. Lama. Dia nak kita hidup. Ikut sama. Oh, ini apa? Biasa. BDC baru tak guna baru lah. Kan Adobe. Kan saya tak boleh. Kalau tidak memang ada kena.